Hey guys, today I bring you an incredible story full of mysteries. Let's follow the story of Celeste Marlowe, who, after a serious accident, had a near-death experience and received a shocking vision of the future that promises to change everything we know about the destiny of humanity. Before we start, comment below which city you're watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our videos with stories that will move you. Hello, my name is Celeste Marlowe. I'm 20 years old and live in Savannah, Georgia. I think if you knew me before what happened, you would describe me as an ordinary girl. You know, just another teenager trying to navigate the chaos we call life. But things weren't always easy for me. My childhood was complicated. I don't want to go into details, but let's say it was marked by difficult times and a lot of loneliness. I'm here today to tell you about something that changed my life completely. It was a moment when I was so close to death that I could feel its cold touch. But instead of giving in, I was taken on a journey that opened my eyes to something bigger than I could have ever imagined. Before all this happened, I was a quiet, shy girl. I didn't have many friends at school and spent most of my free time reading or drawing in my room. My parents, well, they did the best they could, but it wasn't always enough. I felt invisible most of the time, like no one really saw me or cared about me. But everything changed one hot summer afternoon a few months ago. It was a day like any other, until it wasn't. I was coming home from school on my bike, as I always did. The sun was strong, the air heavy with Georgia humidity. I pedaled distractedly, thinking about the tasks I had to do, the tests that were coming up. You know, normal teenage stuff. I never imagined that that ordinary day would turn into the day that would change everything for me, that I would experience something that would make me question everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. But that's how things happen, isn't it? In the blink of an eye, in an instant, everything can change. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was cycling along the usual street, the one that leads straight to my house. He knew the path by heart, every curve, every hole. But that day, something went wrong. Maybe I was too distracted, or maybe it was simply fate. I arrived at a sharp curve, one of those where we always take extra care. But this time, I don't know exactly what happened. My front wheel skidded. I think there was sand or oil on the asphalt. 1 second I was pedaling calmly, the next the world was spinning. I felt my body being thrown forward, the impact with the asphalt. It was as if time had slowed down. I could see the ground approaching, feel the wind rushing past me. And then, darkness. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I felt was pain, a pain that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I tried to move, but my body wasn't responding properly. I looked down and saw blood. Lots of blood. My leg. There was a deep cut, and blood was running down, mixing with the dust from the road. I tried to scream for help, but my voice was weak, almost a whisper. The world around me seemed distant, as if I were seeing everything through fogged glass. I heard voices in the distance, people running. Someone shouted something about calling an ambulance. As I waited, lying there on the hot asphalt, I began to feel a strange sense of disconnection. It was as if I were floating above my own body, observing everything from afar. I saw the ambulance arrive, the paramedics running towards me. They talked to me, asked questions, but I could barely answer them. They put me on a stretcher, and the trip to the hospital was like a hazy dream. The lights flashed by outside, the sirens sounded in the distance. I fluctuated between consciousness and unconsciousness, the pain coming in waves. And all this time, there was this strange feeling, as if something important was about to happen. At the hospital, everything was a blur of worried faces, urgent voices, and bright lights. I heard words like surgery and emergency. Fear started to take over me. What if I didn't survive? What if this was the end? There was so much I still wanted to do, so much that I hadn't yet experienced. But little did I know that this was not the end. In fact, it was just the beginning of something much bigger. When they took me to the operating room, Fear completely took over me. The smell of antiseptic, the bright lights, the doctors and nurses with their masks. Everything seemed so cold and impersonal. I felt small and vulnerable on that stretcher. I remembered a story my grandfather once told me about how he woke up in the middle of surgery. That always haunted me, and now, lying there, that fear resurfaced with full force. What if I woke up during the operation? What if you felt everything? The anesthesiologist approached me and said something about counting to 10. I started counting, determined to fight the sleep I knew was coming. 1, 2, 3. My eyes felt heavy. 4, 5. The world started to go blurry. 6, 7. And then something strange happened. I expected to lose consciousness completely, but that didn't happen. Instead, I felt light, as if floating. I opened my eyes, or at least I thought I had, and found myself looking down at my own body on the operating table. It was the most surreal thing I have ever experienced. I could see the doctors working. I could hear the sound of the monitors, but it was as if I was watching a movie. I no longer felt pain or fear, just a deep sense of peace. I stayed there, floating on the ceiling of the operating room, watching everything. I saw the surgeon making incisions, nurses passing instruments, but none of that seemed to affect me. It was as if that body on the table wasn't me anymore. I tried to get their attention to say I was up there, but no one heard me. I passed through the walls, exploring other parts of the hospital. I saw other patients, doctors running through the corridors. It was fascinating and scary at the same time. After a while, I can't say how long, it seemed like time had lost its meaning. I felt a kind of calling. Something was pulling me away from the hospital upward. I couldn't resist. I let myself be carried away by this invisible force, curious to know what would come next. As I walked away from the hospital, the world around me began to change. The colors became more intense, the sounds clearer. It was as if my senses were expanding, noticing things I had never noticed before. And then, suddenly, everything went dark. It was not frightening darkness, but deep and enveloping. I couldn't see or feel my body. It was like I was just consciousness, floating in the void. For a moment, I felt scared. Was she alone in this dark expanse? But then, in the distance, I saw something, a point of light. Small at first, but growing quickly. And with it came a feeling of warmth, of love, so intense it almost hurt. The light came closer, enveloped me, and I knew my journey was just beginning. In that dark void, I felt completely alone. It was a type of loneliness I had never experienced before. It wasn't like being alone in my room or being ignored at school. It was a cosmic loneliness, as if I were the only thing that existed in the entire universe. For a moment, panic took over me. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't feel my body. I had no reference. I tried to scream, but I had no voice. I tried to move, but there was nowhere to go. It was just me and the infinite void. But then, something changed. In the midst of that absolute darkness, I saw a point of light. At first it was just a distant spark, so small I thought it was my imagination. But she grew up, slowly at first, then faster. As the light approached, I felt something that I cannot fully describe with words. It was as if the purest love you could imagine had taken physical form. The light wasn't just bright. It was warm, welcoming, comforting. When the light completely enveloped me, all the loneliness and fear I felt dissipated. It was like being hugged by all the hugs I'd never received, being loved with an unconditional love I'd never known. At that moment, I understood. I understood that I was never really alone, that there was something greater, something beyond my understanding that was always there, loving me, protecting me. Within that light, I saw shapes manifesting. They were like beings, tall, bright, radiant with love and wisdom. They didn't speak, not in the sense we are used to. but I could understand everything they wanted to tell me. It was as if his thoughts were my thoughts. They showed me things about my life, about the world, about the universe. I saw how interconnected everything is, how every action, every thought, has an impact on the whole. I saw the beauty in every moment, even in the difficult times I had been through. And then they guided me. Through a light corridor, we reach a door, a shining door pulsing with energy. I knew somehow that what was beyond that door would change everything. Part of me was scared, but a bigger part was curious, anxious even. The beings of light encouraged me, not with words, but with feelings, love, trust, security. I knew that no matter what was on the other side of that door, I would be protected, loved. With one last look at the beings that guided me there, I took a deep breath, or at least I had the feeling of breathing, and walked through the door. What I saw on the other side? Well, that's a story for the next chapter. When I walked through that shining door, it was like entering a whole new world. Everything around me was light, but not a blinding or uncomfortable light. It was a living, pulsating light, full of colors that I didn't even know existed. The floor beneath my feet, although I wasn't sure if I still had feet, felt like it was made of sparkling crystal. Every step I took sent waves of colored light spreading in all directions. The sky above was an ever-changing kaleidoscope, with patterns and shapes that defied logic. There were trees, or at least things that looked like trees, but instead of leaves they had what appeared to be liquid light flowing through their branches. The air, well, I don't know if it was really air, but it was like breathing pure energy. Each breath made me feel more alive, more connected to everything around me. As I walked, or floated, I'm not sure, through this incredible world, I noticed that I wasn't alone. Were there other souls? Beings? I don't really know what to call them. They seemed to be made of the same light as everything around them, some brighter, others softer. Everyone emanated a sense of peace and love that was almost tangible. At one point, I came across a structure that looked like a building, but like everything there, it was made of crystalline light. Its walls were like living canvases, showing scenes I couldn't fully understand. Names appeared and disappeared, written in vibrant colors. I tried to remember those names later, but it was like trying to hold water in my hands. Time. Well, time didn't seem to exist there, not in the way we are used to. It could have been minutes or centuries, I couldn't say. Everything seemed to happen in the eternal now. As I explored this wonderful world, I began to understand things. Not through words or explanations, but through direct understanding, as if knowledge was being poured directly into my soul. I understood that everything is connected, that every thought, every action, every choice we make has an impact on the whole. I saw how love is the most powerful force that exists, capable of transcending time and space. I also understood that our life on Earth is just a small part of a much larger journey. As I absorbed all these revelations into this world of light, something incredible happened. I saw a figure approaching me. At first, it was just another being of light, but as it got closer, I began to recognize who it was. It was Jesus. I can't explain how I knew it was him. It wasn't like the images we see in churches or books. It was more. His eyes were such a deep blue that they seemed to contain entire universes, and the love that emanated from him was overwhelming. When Jesus smiled at me, I felt like the entire weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. He opened his arms, and without hesitation, I ran into his embrace. In that moment, I felt a peace that I had never experienced before. All the doubts, fears, and insecurities I carried simply disappeared. Jesus did not speak, not with words, but I could understand everything he wanted to tell me. He showed me my life, not just the moments I remembered, but everything. From the moment I was born until the accident. I saw the moments of joy, the moments of sadness, the moments of fear. And in each of those moments, I saw that I was never truly alone. He was always there, guiding me, protecting me. I cried. I cried with relief, with gratitude, with love. Jesus wiped my tears and with a gesture invited me to walk with him. As we walked through that world of light, he began to show me things, visions of the future. I saw scenes of natural disasters, earthquakes shaking cities, tsunamis swallowing entire coastlines, fires devastating forests. I saw conflicts between nations, people fighting each other. But I also saw hope. I saw people coming together to help each other. I saw love overcoming hate. I saw humanity rising from the ashes. Jesus showed me that these things would begin to happen from August 2024. It wasn't a distant future, it was now. As I watched these visions, I understood that I had a role to play. I didn't know exactly what this role was, but I knew it was important. Then Jesus asked me a question, not in words, but I understood clearly. He asked me if I wanted to come back, return to my life, to my body, to the world I knew, or if I wanted to stay there, in that world of light and love. For a moment I hesitated. The idea of going back to the pain, the problems, the loneliness, was scary. There, I felt loved, safe, at peace. But then, I remembered all the visions I had seen. I remembered that I had a purpose. With a heavy but determined heart, I told Jesus I wanted to return. He smiled, a smile full of pride and love. He hugged me once again, and in the blink of an eye, I felt my being pulled back. The journey back was as quick as it was intense. It was like I was falling through layers and layers of reality. The colors, the sounds, the sensations, everything passed through me at dizzying speed. Suddenly I felt a strong pull and found myself back in my body. The first feeling was discomfort. My body felt heavy, limited. It was like trying to put on an old, tight outfit after spending so much time free and light. I opened my eyes slowly. The light of the hospital room seemed blinding after the soft glow of the world I had left behind. I blinked several times, trying to get used to it. Little by little, I began to hear the sounds around me. The constant beeping of monitors, distant voices in the hallway. I tried to move, but my body was still weak. I felt a throbbing pain in my leg, a reminder of the accident that seemed like an eternity ago. A nurse came into the room, noticed that I was awake and quickly left, probably to call the doctor. In the minutes that followed, I was bombarded with questions, exams, people coming in and out of the room. My parents arrived, their eyes red from crying. They hugged me, kissed me, told me how worried they were. But in the midst of all this turmoil, I felt different, calm, as if he had secret knowledge, a deep understanding that no one else there could understand. I tried to tell about my experience, about the world of light, about Jesus, about visions of the future. But words seemed inadequate, unable to capture the magnitude of what I had experienced. People listened with expressions of confusion, some with concern. The doctor said something about hallucinations caused by anesthesia. I realized it would be difficult to share everything that had happened. At least, not all at once. I decided to keep most of it to myself, at least for now. In the days that followed, while I was recovering in the hospital, I reflected a lot on everything that had happened, about the unconditional love he had felt, about the interconnectedness of all things, about the purpose he knew he had to fulfill. I knew my life would never be the same again. Not because I was going to go around telling everyone about my experience or trying to convince people, but because I myself had changed profoundly. My perspective on life, on love, on what really matters, all of that had transformed. And as I looked out the hospital window, watching the sun set over the Savannah skyline, I felt a mix of emotions. Thank you for having this incredible experience. Love for everything and everyone around me. And a quiet but strong determination to live my life in a way that honored everything I had learned. Coming home after everything that happened was strange. Everything seemed the same, but at the same time completely different. My room, my books, my things, everything was exactly where I had left it. But I was no longer the same Celeste who had left home that fateful afternoon. In the first few days, I found myself looking at ordinary things with a new fascination. The way the sunlight streamed through the curtains in the morning, creating patterns on the floor. The sound of the wind in the trees outside. Even the taste of the food seemed more intense, more alive. My parents noticed the change in me. I was calmer, more reflective. Sometimes they caught me staring into space, lost in thought. They asked if I was okay, if I needed to talk to someone. I smiled and said everything was fine, and it really was. Better than ever, in fact. I went back to school after a few weeks. It felt strange to be back in the routine after everything that had happened. My classmates' worries about exams, dating, and gossip seemed so small now. Not in an arrogant way, but with an understanding that there were much bigger things going on. I started to notice the people around me more. The shy girl who always sat alone in the cafeteria, the janitor that no one seemed to notice, the teacher who always seemed tired and stressed. I started making small gestures. A smile here, a kind word there. Nothing grand, but with the certainty that every act of kindness, no matter how small, had an impact. At night, before going to sleep, I reflected on the visions I had seen, about the events that would begin to happen soon. Part of me wanted to warn people, to shout at the world to prepare. But I knew that wasn't how things worked. My role was not to be a prophet of the apocalypse, but rather to be present, to be a light in the midst of the darkness that would come. I started to study more about prophecies, about religious texts, not in an obsessive way, but with genuine curiosity. I wanted to better understand what I had seen, how it connected to what others had experienced throughout history. My family and friends noticed these changes in me. Some thought it was a phase, others were intrigued by my new interest in spiritual matters. I didn't force anything. I didn't try to convert anyone. I just lived my life the best way I could, keeping in my heart the knowledge and love I had experienced. And so, the days passed. August 2024 approached, and with it, the knowledge that the things I had seen would soon begin to unfold. But I wasn't afraid. I knew that regardless of what came, there was a greater purpose in everything, and I was ready to do my part, however small, in this grand plan. As August 2024 approached, I felt a mix of emotions. Anxiety, yes, but also a strange calm. It was as if part of me knew exactly what was coming, while another part was still struggling to comprehend it all. I spent a lot of time reflecting on the visions I had, about the natural disasters, the conflicts, but also about the hope and love that I saw overcoming all of this. I wondered how I, an ordinary girl from Savannah, could make a difference in the face of such huge events. But then I remembered what I had learned in that world of light. That every action, every thought, every choice matters. That we are all connected, and that love is the most powerful force there is. I started preparing, not in an obvious or dramatic way, but with small changes in my daily life. I started meditating every morning, trying to maintain that connection I felt during my experience. I started practicing gratitude more, recognizing the blessings in each moment, even in the challenges. At school, I became more involved in community projects. I helped organize food donation campaigns, participated in emotional support groups for other students. I didn't do it thinking I'm preparing for the future I saw, but rather because I felt it was the right thing to do. At home, I tried to be more present with my family. I spent more time talking to my parents, really listening to them. I helped more with the housework, not out of obligation, but as a way of expressing love and gratitude. As the days passed, I began to notice small changes around me. The news talked more and more about natural disasters in various parts of the world. Political tensions appeared to be rising. It was as if I could see the first signs of the visions I had seen materializing. Sometimes it scared me. I wondered if I was really prepared for what was to come. But then I remembered Jesus' embrace, that unconditional love I felt, love, and I knew that regardless of what happened, that love would always be there. I didn't tell many people about my visions or what I thought was going to happen. I knew most people wouldn't understand or would think I was exaggerating. But with some people close to me, I shared parts of my experience, not to alarm, but to inspire, to remind them that even in the most difficult times, there is always hope. And so, as the calendar turned to August 2024, I felt ready. Not in the sense of being fully prepared for everything, but ready to face whatever comes with love, compassion, and the certainty that there is a greater purpose in everything. Looking out my bedroom window, watching the sun set over Savannah, I took a deep breath. The future was uncertain, yes, but I had seen beyond the veil. I had experienced a love that transcends all. And with that knowledge in my heart, I knew I was ready for whatever came next. Here I am, sitting on my front porch looking up at the Savannah sky. It's early August 2024, and the air is thick with expectation. Not just for me, but it feels like the whole world is on the brink of something big. Over the past few days, the news has been intense. Reports of extreme weather conditions in various parts of the world. Rumors of conflicts intensifying in already unstable regions. It's as if you can feel the energy of the planet changing, preparing for something. Part of me wants to run, to scream, to warn everyone of what's coming, but I know that's not my role. My mission is not to be an end-times prophet, but rather to be a light, a beacon of hope in the midst of the approaching storm. Yesterday, walking through the town square, I saw a group of people arguing heatedly about politics. For a moment, I remembered the visions of conflict I had. But instead of moving away, I moved closer, not to take sides, but to listen, to try to understand. And in the end, I managed to make them listen to each other a little more, to see the human being behind the differing opinions. It was a small moment, but it made me realize that this is how I can make a difference, not with grand gestures or dramatic revelations, but with small acts of love and understanding. My family has noticed the changes in me over the past few months. My parents asked me if I was worried about anything, if there was something I wanted to tell them. For a moment, I thought about sharing everything, about my experience, about the visions, about what I believe is to come. But something told me to wait. Instead, I just smiled and told them I loved them, that I was grateful to have them in my life. The look of surprise and joy in their eyes was worth 1,000 words. At school, things also changed, not dramatically, but subtly. I started sitting with different people at lunch, especially those who were normally alone. I started listening more and talking less. And surprisingly, people started looking for me, not for gossip or fashion advice, but to talk about deeper things, about your fears, your hopes, your doubts about the future. Sometimes when I'm alone, I close my eyes and try to reconnect with that sense of peace and love that I experienced during my journey. I don't always succeed, but when it happens, it's like a wave of calm washes over me, reminding me that no matter what happens, there's something bigger guiding us. Looking to the future, I know that difficult times are coming. The visions I had were not of an easy path, but I also know there is hope, that love and compassion have the power to overcome any obstacle. I don't know exactly what my role will be in the events to come. I may never fully know, but I'm at peace with that. I know that every small act of kindness, every moment of understanding, every gesture of love makes a difference. As the sun sets over the Savannah skyline, I feel a mix of emotions. Yes, there is anxiety about the unknown that awaits us, but there is also a deep gratitude for the journey that brought me here. And most of all, there is hope. Hope in humanity's potential to rise above its differences, to unite in times of need, to choose love over fear. I don't know what exactly tomorrow will bring, but I know that I will be here, doing my part, no matter how small, to bring a little more light to the world. And in the end, I believe that's what really matters. As the first stars begin to appear in the sky, I take a deep breath and smile. I'm ready for whatever comes. Not because I am special or have any extraordinary power, but because I carry with me the memory of that unconditional love I experienced. And with that love in my heart, I know I can face anything. The future may be uncertain, but one thing is certain. Each of us has the power to make a difference. and it is with this certainty that I close this chapter of my life, anxious and hopeful for what is to come. So, what did you think of this incredible story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Activate the notification bell to be notified with each new video. Let's bring hope to more people that there is life beyond what the eyes can see.